Have you ever felt bad about hurting anybody?
I broke a guy's orbital bone. He insulted me a lot before the fight, and I shattered his face pretty good. His confidence was never the same, but if they could do it to me, they would. One thing I do, I pray for my opponents before the fight. What we do for a living is a little taboo. There's not many who have the courage to go on there and be so vulnerable, knocked unconscious in front of all your friends and family, your teachers, seeing your eyes roll back in your head. No one wants to get embarrassed in front of millions of people. So we train to do the things that no one wants to do. That's what makes great fighters.
Over the past decade, mixed martial arts has become one of the world's fastest growing sports. What began as a gathering of variously trained fighters competing for the right to claim their technique as supreme has become the household name known today as simply MMA. Most of the sport's growth in popularity is due to its largest organization, the UFC. One of the most anticipated fights in UFC history took place in April 2012, when two former teammates faced each other in the octagon. Months earlier, the older fighter, Rashad Evans, was a mentor to his friend and rising star, Jon Jones. But on that day, the Las Vegas arena was brimming with anticipation for the two former friends to exchange blows.
Kept Rampage at distance.
Unable to control his fury, Rashad made crucial errors. Jones remained composed, unleashing strategic attacks.
Rashad, he tagged him. He would love to finish this fight.
49-46, and Richard Bertrand scores the contest 50-49.
5 rounds later, Jones is declared the winner, retaining his title as the light heavyweight champion of the world.
The undisputed UFC light heavyweight champion of the world.
The UFC has found its new superstar. Rashad left New Mexico after feeling betrayed by his former team at Jackson's gym. He's made a new home base in Florida where he lives with his girlfriend, Beans. After losing another fight in a split decision, Rashad suffered a severe knee injury that put his career on hold for at least a year.
The climb back up is the hardest in many ways, but I'm right there again. And I hurt myself.
Trying to be sassy.
He's just defending his house. He's checking you guys out like you were checking him out.
Wow.
Rashad's children from his second marriage visit him once a month. They miss their father, and it shows. On a pleasant afternoon like this, the family enjoys their time together.
What was your experience like fighting John Jones?
I felt mentally drained going into that fight. You know, there's a big, huge story behind the whole me and John Jones relationship, and furthermore, the relationship which was fractured because of the fight, which was Jackson's gym. You know, Greg Jackson was my longtime coach, and I had some of my best fights training under them. And I felt like they sold me out. At that point, I'm like, what happened? You know, and it's weird because you never know, like, at that point in which you've lost that step. And I'm thinking to myself, like, did I lose my shit? Like, where did my shit go? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't hit the button, I can't find that thing. It was a lot of soul searching, a lot of why I started to fight, what it means to fight.
Keep your knee right there, right there, right there. Good.
3 times a week, Rashad does rehab to strengthen his healing knee.
1, that's it. Your muscle's not even shaking, that's great. 2, now it's starting to shake. I spoke too soon.
His injury changes everything. Does he have the ability to stand on his leg, push off as hard as he wants, and not have to worry about it collapsing or falling?
It's okay, no big deal.
Mentally speaking, that period of time can take just as long, if not even longer, to recover than just the physical injury itself.
For me, fighting is always overcoming, always overcoming, always overcoming. And now, here I am, on the road to come back, on the road to dominate and try to regain what was once mine, which is a UFC light heavyweight belt.
Since defeating Rashad Evans, John Jones still remains champion. He is 27 years old and now the UFC's biggest draw. Huge endorsements with Reebok and Beats headphones have made him a household name. International appearances take up a lot of the fighter's time. Now, with his next fight just 5 weeks away, the champ returns to his training camp at the famous Jackson's Gym in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Me and Rashad Evans, we were training partners. He was somebody who I looked up to growing up, and he was one of the main reasons why I came to Jackson's Gym. I was teaching them all these cool, funky, crazy techniques, and they were teaching me some of their veteran techniques and stuff. And I think my passion allowed me to outgrow those guys.
Like that switch, John Jones, I saw it.
They saw it pretty fast. You know, every week I was getting a little bit closer to beating them, and eventually I was beating them both. Rashad got injured, and the UFC offered me the opportunity to fill in for him to compete for the next available world championship. And obviously I took the opportunity. He felt as if I should have waited for him to recover. That's not really the way the world works. I felt as if this was my time, my opportunity to be great, and I did. I won that world championship in really devastating fashion. He started his own team and challenged me for the championship right away. And we beat him up pretty good. He badmouthed Greg Jackson, he badmouthed the whole program, tried to twist the story to the media and to tell people that I betrayed him. And really, I was just a kid following my heart, following my dreams.
You're still shaking off Brazil a little bit. You can see that travel's a little getting you, but that doesn't mean nothing. Let's get you out of here, though.
When you told your parents you were going to become a professional fighter, how did they react?
They were not about it. My dad, being a pastor, you know, he always wanted me to go the route of a spiritual leader, and I never thought that was for me. My mom thought that it would change my character. She thought that I would become a violent person or a person who didn't treat people fairly or you know, arrogant. But it's changed my life in a positive way. You know, it's given me a way to provide for my family and to share myself with the world. So now they realize that it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
This is good. Yep.
Take two.
What are the actual origins of MMA? Where did it come from?
Originally, it started, I think it's like 648 before Christ. I looked it up one day because I had a real cool script about it. And it was in the first Olympics, called pancration. Pancrash.
MMA's roots can be traced back to ancient Greece. A sporting event known as pancration determined who was the ultimate combatant. Men faced off before roaring crowds, garnering the respect of such figures as Alexander the Great. Contestants had the ability to submit by raising an index finger, similar to the tap-out technique used in modern times.
It was mixed martial arts, pretty much, right there at the first Olympic sports.
Back in the days, gladiators, they would have thousands and thousands of people, and they're killing each other with swords and everything. There's something about two men that get inside of a cage and compete against each other that human nature loves to watch.
Every human being, even my mother, who was like a saint, she wouldn't hurt nobody, but I can still, even her, put her in a situation of life or death, or even for defending someone that she loves, she's gonna have to fight.
As a fighter, there's nothing harder than MMA. You know, you gotta do the wrestling, you gotta do the kickboxing, you gotta do the jiu-jitsu. We're like a Rubik's Cube, MMA is. You gotta make sure all the colors match at the same time to win the game.
In Brazil, the Gracie family perfected the ancient Japanese martial art of jiu-jitsu, molding it into a brand all their own. This Brazilian jiu-jitsu would become one of the key principles of today's mixed martial arts.
In 1914, Mitsui Maeda, a jiu-jitsu instructor from Japan, came to Brazil as an aide to the Japanese immigration colony. My grandfather was a very influential man at the time, helped the Japanese gentleman get settled. So to show his gratitude, he offered to teach jiu-jitsu to my uncle Carlos, who at the time was 13 years old. My father, Eddie Gracie, was physically very frail. Nobody knew exactly why. And what my dad soon realized is that the techniques he had spent a few years memorizing by watching his brothers practice require a certain amount of physical ability and strength and speed, which he did not have. So to trial and error, he started modifying those concepts of the traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu that he had observed so that he could become proficient in spite of his frail body. And ultimately, that was the birth of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you're gonna rely on strikes, if he's 50 pounds heavier than you, there's a very good chance that that guy can throw a punch and knock you out. So in Jiu-Jitsu, we take that equation out of the game. The concept is to create positions of leverage that enable a weaker person to become highly proficient, even against somebody who's much bigger, much heavier, much stronger, because we're not relying on speed, on strength.
My first view of a competitive matchup between two guys that were allowed to do more than just punch with their hands or kick with their feet was when I was with the Gracies, when they were showing me fights that they had done or other people had competed in from Brazil.
The UFC was something that was developed by me when I came to the United States with the objective of us, sharing the knowledge of jiu-jitsu with the rest of the world. I came up with a concept to develop a tournament between different styles of martial arts. A boxer fighting a grappler, a jiu-jitsu man fighting a taekwondo guy. I specifically did not want a boxing ring because once they start getting beat up, they slip through the ropes and get away. In fact, John Milius, who was a student of mine at the time, did Conan the Barbarian, a whole bunch of big, huge movies. John and I used to have discussions on how should we make that ring so the guys would not get away. And we discussed having a moat with alligators. So if the guy tried to get away, he'd be eaten up by alligators and stuff like that. Eventually, we settled for what the octagon is today.
One of my students had actually picked up a flyer, and it said "No Holds Barred" on it. And when I looked at it, I just thought, well, in those days, it was pro wrestling. I mean, you look at No Holds Barred, it was Hulk Hogan.
When they first brought the UFC on the scene, it was billed as the fact that somebody could die. They were creating that sensationalism.
I go, hey, it says no rules, pull hair, groin shell. He says, yeah, everything's good. The only thing you can't do is bite, bare knuckle.
I want to show to the world that if you throw a punch on somebody's face, it's very likely going to break your fingers. Versus the illusion that we see sometimes in the movies where one guy walks in and chops everybody else and 50 people drop dead. That's not reality.
8 of the deadliest fighters in the world will meet in a no-holds-barred. In 1993, the first Ultimate Fighting Championship commenced.
I loved it. It was very realistic, where back then there were a lot of hocus-pocus type of martial arts. It showed everybody what techniques actually work in a real situation and what techniques don't.
That was the first time that I really saw martial arts go out and do what they say they could do, and that was have a little guy beat a big guy.
Gerard Gordeau versus Taylor Tooley, I mean, that was as violent as it gets. Gordeau kicks Tooley in the face with his shin, and his tooth flies, and they call off the fight. It lasted like 30 seconds or so.
When I saw that a little guy like Royce Gracie beating up the bigger and more intimidating guy, I feel very inspired because they make me remember my childhood when I went at school and got bullied. So right away I knew I wanted to do this and I wanted to be world champion.
The first pay-per-view did like over 350,000 pay-per-view buys, UFC 1, and it just grew, it got bigger. They didn't realize the sport that they had intrigued fans to watch.
Thank you very much for watching the first.
Michael Guyman has dedicated his entire life to MMA. Born and raised in Orange County, California, he is 39 years old and has fought 22 professional fights. He never achieved stardom. Throughout most of his career, Michael has struggled with depression and thoughts of suicide.
Yeah, I need to... Is these filled or filled?
Okay. Michael, can you put your address for me on that one? Right underneath your name. What was your birthday also?
9/17/74.
Since we've got him on medicine, it's kind of flatlined him in the sense of, like, he doesn't, like, think of just picking up a gun and shooting himself or driving off a cliff. I think it's more of just like, I'm okay if I die, you know? And he says that occasionally, you know, like, I'm okay if I die. So I know that that part of the depression is still there.
I worried about him. I don't want him to do anything drastic. And I worried about all the injuries he suffered when he was fighting, because he had very serious broken bones in all his face and his jaw and everything.
He got knocked out and he hit the ground, and you can clearly see that he was out, and the ref was coming in to stop and do this, and the guy came down and hit him one more time, and the guy gave 110% and just shattered his face.
I broke my orbital, my eye socket, my cheekbone, my jaw. I remember on the way to the hospital, all of a sudden I see this pink fluid coming out my nose, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? It ended up being brain fluid, you know? The guy gets knocked out, he gets carted off. You don't see him the next week, what he's like. If you saw me the next day, you would never recognize me. It's not a game.
Following his recent injury sustained in the cage, Joker has been unable to compete. This has led to a multitude of financial problems and uncertainty over the future of his business venture, his gym.
Stress for me is, it's going through the roof. And I'm trying to be like, I'm trying to be as positive as possible on the outside. Inside sucks. Am I gonna be able to keep the gym? How am I gonna make money if I can't keep the gym? You know, not being able to fight. I mean, I am able to fight. It's just I'd have to force my body through all that shit again, which I don't want to do.
For years, unsanctioned amateur fights have taken place on California's Indian reservations. This is how many of the fighters today got their start, Joker among them. Today, he leads his student Luke along the same path at this small amateur venue miles away from the city.
Luke's trying to build his way up, and this is the way to do it. Build up your record here, and then try and get into a bigger show. He's the new breed.
Future right here.
The past right here. When you hit pads, it's not going to be like that when you're fighting. They're going to be thrown at you. It's like Matrix. Everything slows down.
Oh, shit, he's hurt.
I
I want you to hold him so he don't move. Chris, come here.
His teeth. You're fixing stitches now?
I just had surgery. Yeah, I don't want to watch that.
Movement, movement, movement. Make him commit, make him pay.
To my left, from Joker MMA, is Luke Adams.
Give me a thumbs up, coach.
Ranked number 6 in the world, 34-year-old Sarah McMahon is an active USC fighter. Prior to joining the league, Sarah was a wrestler on the U.S. Olympic team. She became the first American woman to win a silver medal at the 2004 Olympics.
If you want to cut and break a nose, make some damage, you're going to have to hit with that tip.
Recently separated from her husband of 5 years, the future of Sarah's marriage is now uncertain. A devoted mother, she is constantly balancing the demands of her fighting career with the time needed for her daughter.
Do you have a lot of homework? Were you a naughty girl today? You were a good girl? My brother wrestled since I was about 3 years old, and I never really had an interest in it. I did cheerleading for like 1 year, and then when I was 14, I was like, I think I want to go out for sports. I wanted to do wrestling because it just seemed like the most natural sport. But in North Carolina, you know, that just wasn't really accepted. It was, you know, girls should be cooking and cleaning for those boys, not wrestling with them. Like, it's just a different time. I've always kind of had a stubborn streak, so immediately when they told me I couldn't do something, especially because they told me I couldn't do it because I was a girl, I was like, no way I'm doing this. Like, you don't tell me what I can and can't do and what I'm capable of. And my mom was like, oh, you're wrestling. And I was like, yes. Some guys on the team didn't think that I belonged there. Like, I was just there to, you know, find a boyfriend or hook up or something like that. You know, if she's gonna quit, we'll help make her quit. If they came after me, I just came after them harder. And like, so I just kind of proved that, okay, you're gonna stand up to me, you're gonna challenge me, it's just gonna make me a better wrestler. Like, you're actually helping me. There's a grasshopper in the mouth. It's trying to crawl out. Grab it quick. Grab it. Oh, could I jump? Grab it. Quick. Got it. Don't squeeze it. My brother was murdered when I was 18 years old, and he was 21. And it was my first year of college. The guy got beat up by my brother, and so he was insulted. And I decided, like, you know what? I'm gonna solve this problem. I'm just gonna kill the guy. My older brother was responsible for me choosing to wrestle and my character developing the way it did, my stubbornness and my hard work and my drive. And it was horrible. It was horrible losing, you know, somebody you looked up to and that was your hero. And not even just like losing somebody is hard enough, but having somebody taken from you. It was really difficult for an 18-year-old to process. I didn't process it by, like, you know, crying all the time. I threw myself into wrestling, and when I wasn't, I was just angry, you know, like angry at the world, angry that, you know, that's the hand that life dealt me at that time.
I'm not a fan of women fighting. I think it's gross, but that's just me. You know, you want to You want to fight like a man, you want to act like a man, then I'm going to beat you up like a man.
There's room for women competitors, for sure. I mean, it just gives an opportunity for women. They want to compete. They want to be fighters. It's cool. I mean, I don't see it too sexy. I mean, that's just my sexist side of me as being a man, I guess. But if they want to compete, cool. That's awesome.
You know, I've always had a fascination with combat sports. You know, I can remember as a little girl, you know, and I'm talking very little girl, you know, maybe 6, 7, 8, you know, laying in bed thinking, if I hit him like this, he's going to do this. If I do this, he's going to do that. I think my mom thought I was amazingly crazy.
He'd be like, oh, you're not going to have your daughter be a fighter? I'm like, no. Maybe a ballerina or something.
I had parents that instilled in me to try to be strong, and martial arts really did help me because I got into it so young, build my confidence. It kind of gave me a voice.
As female fighters, you know, we do have a voice, and we can make our voice heard. Every time we go in that cage, we earn more and more respect, and I think that puts us in a position of being the voice for other women around the world that don't have the opportunity to have their voice heard.
It wasn't until Strikeforce that I had the opportunity to see legitimate female athletes.
For people that say that there's no place for women in the octagon, I just say watch, you know, watch, observe, have an open mind.
I mean, if you bought a ticket to an NBA game and you said, all right, well, at halftime there's going to be a WNBA game, a lot of fans will be like, what is this? We hate the WNBA. You know how that is. No one thinks twice. The women's fights are just as exciting and looked forward to as the men's fights.
There's obviously a lot of women that want to fight, and there's a lot of guys that want to see them fight.
Do you think women are finally getting respect as fighters?
Yes, definitely. Well, especially since, you know, I mean, there's Ronda Rousey. I mean, she's definitely deserves the respect. How hard she trains, her mental and her physical, everything is so prepared, and that's what makes her a good fighter.
Ronda Rousey, a reigning UFC champion and #4 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. She has viciously dominated her opponents, beating many of them within the opening seconds.
Here is the action, and there's not a lot of it. Done! That is the end, ladies and gentlemen. Seconds into the first round again. Ronda Rousey looks unbeatable. Phenomenal.
All right, y'all, here she is. Hi, everybody. Hi, nice to meet you too. I found a scrapbook in our house when I was like around 8, and I discovered that my mom was the first American judo world champion. Like I just found out that she was actually Wonder Woman. People all over the world gravitate towards fighting because it's something that's in everyone, and it's an actual instinct. It's not a man's thing or a woman's thing. It's simple and it's natural, and we're all compelled to do it.
It's in our blood, it's in our history. We're instinctively protective creatures because we're mothers. So if you ever watch a female fight, you see that relentless passion to dominate and to survive.
Recently, Ronda took on Sarah McMahon, dropping her with a knee to the liver, a stoppage that Sarah still believes was premature. She continues to train daily, patiently awaiting her next fight.
The former Bellator lightweight world champion, please welcome Michael Chandler.
Ever since I lost that belt a couple of years ago, I knew that it was only a matter of time, only a matter of work, only a matter of positive thinking.
Losing extra pounds to make weight is never easy. It drastically affects a fighter's mind.
I'm very disciplined for my whole training camp, and I get my body down to the best physical shape it possibly can be, you know, 4, 5, 6% body fat. And then that last 15 pounds or so is a lot of water weight. Once you make the weight, then you have about 24 hours and you can finally breathe, because that first fight was just making the weight. Now you can focus on the task at hand, which is going out there and winning that next fight. Growing up in the Midwest, my mom and dad worked 2 jobs to make sure us kids had every single thing that we wanted. My first love was wrestling, and my mom worked 2 jobs. My dad was a carpenter, so he went to work throughout the week and then would do side jobs on the weekends just to scrape up enough money to make sure I could go to wrestling camps. They truly wanted to give us kids more than they had when they grew up. And now kind of coming into the sport of MMA, it's really helped me keep my roots very strongly planted in the ground.
What do you do? What do you mean? I grew up against bamboo trees.
Even though he is completely different. There's guys that are just exceptionally good in
Kicking and striking, it was unnatural because I wasn't a fighter growing up. I never got in fights, and I never really had that, you know, that adrenaline rush of fighting and throwing punches and kicks and knees and elbows. But I wasn't afraid of anybody, and I knew that I was already going to be tougher than a lot of the guys I stepped in the cage with. I might not really understand how a fight works, but I know when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, I've already done it at the highest level in that Division I wrestling room, that Division I grind, where for 12 months out of the year, for 5 years straight, you were literally putting your body through a living hell.
You cannot go from an elbow strike from 12 to 6. Now you can be on your back and throw it from 6 to 12. That is legal.
Having a loss is tough. I've trained so hard and so smart and surrounded myself with the right people, the people I think that are going to help me. And I never envisioned seeing myself lose. My first 12 fights, I was 12-0, 10 finishes, and like 7 of those in the first round.
Bleeding terribly out of the mouth for Michael Chandler. Now giving up his back. Chandler with that's it. There's the tap, and we have a new champion. Michael Chandler is Bellator's new lightweight world champion.
My rematch against Eddie Alvarez, I lost by a tough split decision. A lot of people thought I won. I was put in the sport to become a champion and be put on a platform to reach people, so I couldn't see how I could possibly lose inside that cage. And then it happens. I came back from the dead almost. Not many guys lose 3 fights in a row and then come back and become, you know, where I think that I'm going to end up. When I step into that cage, I have one goal, I have one mission, and that's to dominate. This is a hurt business. I am pretty darn good at it. I visualize myself on top of my opponent, hitting him or putting him in a submission, watching him crumble, watching his facial expression turn from looking like he thinks that he's going to win to that sunken-in facial expression of, oh my gosh, this guy won't get off me. Oh my gosh, it's only a matter of time before I get finished.
Is faster, Patricky Pitbull more powerful, more naturally heavy-handed. That's the difference in their striking styles. And it's over. Michael Chandler came in wanting to take the fight to the ground. Instead, he puts Patricky Pitbull to the ground, and we have a new lightweight world champion.
There definitely are still some troubled guys who want to get in the sport to channel their anger, or, hey, I want to make some money. There's girls around. Maybe I'll get on TV and my friends will think I'm cool. But it's starting to become such a high-profile sport. It's not easy to get signed to these promotions unless you are a quality fighter and a quality human being. It's interesting the way the sport has grown, matured, and advanced.
Clint Dahl, a manager to many fighters, studied the UFC formula and soon began promoting local fights in Orange County. These local events became a breeding ground for some of the world's greatest fighters.
There's a good example of California's finest. What up, buddy? The time I had graduated high school, a large number of my friends had been murdered, and street fights were a common thing, you know? You just did it.
Fight fans, 1,000 strong in an Orange County college gym. Cheer on the bare-knuckle brawlers. There are a few rules, and gloves are not required.
The UFC had been going, and we started wanting to be the UFC. We started putting on fights that we called shoot fights.
Shoot fighting's not pro wrestling. You really fight out there, and you don't go out there.
Orange County in the 90s was the Mecca. I mean, Orange County was truly the Mecca of mixed martial arts.
Well, the less rules there are, the more intense it can be.
I have a scar on my palm from when I hit a guy and broke his nose, and I guess his skull went into my hand and just blood everywhere.
One night, this guy came in, and he was a known badass. He was like the guy on the street. He wasn't a big guy, but he beat up big guys. You know, everyone would talk about it. And I'm like, will you fight? And he's all like, who am I fighting? I go, I got a 16-year-old kid back here who trains here. That 16-year-old kid beat the shit out of that Street Fighter. Mangled him. So this Street Fighter sitting on the floor, I go, are you okay? And the $100 that I gave him were in 20s, and they were all crumbled up, and he just reached and grabbed them, and he's like, pulls him into himself because he's afraid in that moment that I'm gonna take his $100. So there's a street fighting story. Street fighters lose. And that's where it started to progress.
A practicing minister, please welcome Chemo.
In America, since it's the melting pot of all different cultures, I believe that same thing happens when a martial art comes here. Kickboxing, karate, taekwondo, all of these things got mixed together to make mixed martial arts.
The sport of mixed martial arts has constantly reinvented itself. Once dominated by Brazilian jiu-jitsu, today's fighters must develop a more well-rounded approach to stay competitive.
We learned about the Gracies. A fundamental ground fighting system was revealed to us, and we all went, holy smokes. But then when Stan Lagunitas beat Dennis Alexio with a leg kick, Muay Thai came around. Everybody, holy smokes, what's Muay Thai? Then you get a guy like a Don Fry, who's a very good boxer and a good wrestler. They could stuff a takedown and then start punching and knock a guy out.
UFC 8 versus Gary Goodridge. He's a monster. UFC 9, Mari Patesh. God bless him, you know, he almost died that night, you know, because he would not quit. UFC 10, Coleman almost killed me.
You got guys like Tito Ortiz, who reinvented the ground and pound after Coleman pretty much invented it, to a sprawl and brawl, which, you know, Chuck Liddell mastered.
Oh, and a big right hand. Big leg kick. That's it. It's over. There has never been a challenger like this before.
Knocking someone out, it feels great. It's like kind of, if you play baseball, it's like hitting that clean line drive out of the park.
The young guys at that time said, okay, we got to be a complete fighter. Otherwise, if you have a hole in your game and I don't, then I'm going to probably win the fight.
In our schools, we teach striking and ground tactics. You have to know both. You know, for a street situation, you have to know it, and of course for MMA. And I would never put somebody in the cage that's not well-rounded.
It's putting it all together, making it as one. You know, if you can make it all seamless, then that's the art of it.
Each fighter gets to put his own flavor on it and come out and you know, express himself to the world in a canvas that's painted in blood.
The sport started with barroom brawlers, you know, guys who were angry or just getting out of prison, and it was taboo. But now you see so many people coming into this sport where they're just passionate about it. I have my degree from Mizzou. If I wanted to stop fighting today, I could go use that degree and do whatever I wanted to do with it. But I choose fighting because I like it.
I'm not the kind of guy who goes out to a bar and gets into a fight like an idiot. I can't say I ever got in a fight that I wasn't paid for.
Now you're coming in as a guy who started training in MMA as a 12-year-old, and now you're 21 with all those skill set. It's fun to look back at that time, but that wasn't sport, that was more spectacle. This is true sport.
All right, guys, let's go. Let's get it, get it, get it.
Rashad's knee has yet to fully heal, but he's eager to begin his training.
Thank you, my princess.
He steps back into the gym for the first time in 10 months. This is just the beginning of his comeback.
What was your childhood like?
I moved my dad when I was 3 years old, and I stayed until I was 7. And he had very bad anger issues. You know, he whooped our ass a lot, but to the point sometimes where, like, I didn't even like fear to paddle anymore. My mother was a good mom. She was very strict. She'll give you a couple warnings, and if by the third warning you didn't get it right, it'll pop, 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 pop. Rashad, go get that belt. And I'm like, damn.
Okay, here we go.
I used to love the fight. That was like the funnest thing in the world to me, just to get into a street fight with some other kids. It was natural for me because I grew up fighting. Like back when I was like 4 or 5 years old, my brother Lance would make me fight other little kids. I mean, they would love to fight me because I looked like a wimp. I had to always prove to them that, you know, I'm about it and I'm not scared of nothing. It helped me like release a lot of frustration and hurt that I had, you know what I'm saying? We grew up kind of poor, you know, very poor. And it was hard. Once I got old enough to really start to understand that I was poor, then I had like a lot of resentment for my father, even resentment for my mother, because I was like, you know, I used to think like, why the fuck do I gotta grow up like this? And it was one of the things in my life that always gives me drive, because I can still remember that feeling.
That's the business, you know what I'm saying? I got one chance in my lifetime right now to seize this opportunity and make the most out of it. And I gotta do what I gotta do to make sure I'm doing that. You know? I've been in this game since 2003, man.
When you met Rashad, did you know he was a professional fighter?
No. I had no idea what I was in for. He tried to tell me, and I asked him, a fighter, what do you mean? And he said, mixed martial arts. I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice hobby, but what do you do for a living?
Yeah, how you do it and cut off, you not only control, but you cut off blood supply.
He's trying to prove something, that's
no, I'm just showing him.
I just want to feel it. Hold on, let me finish the chewing, man. Come on.
Was it difficult seeing him not able to train?
Yeah, it's difficult because it's like a child that's not able to play.
No, wait, don't hurt his knee.
Out of all the sports out there, it's the hardest one to be connected with, to watch him want to do so much, but you can't.
With his upcoming fight against Daniel Cormier looming, John takes time away from training to fulfill his fatherly duties.
Oh, look, John Bones Jones style. I let my kids watch my fights, but never live, because you never know what's gonna happen out there, you know. I've had some fights where I've gotten pretty bloody, and I've had some fights where I've gotten other people pretty bloody, and I don't really like them to see that type of stuff.
Sorry, excuse me, folks.
How's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good to see you, buddy.
Do a lot of fighters bring their families along during the training?
That seems to work for a lot of fighters. I've also seen a lot of fighters come down here by themselves, and those guys really, they don't really seem as happy. You know, they seem to get burned out a little faster. You know, they miss their kids, and you know, just having my kids run up to me screaming, "Daddy, Daddy," things in the gym just don't seem as serious. Guess what? Got you guys some toys tonight. Yeah.
Your opponent, Daniel Cormier, keeps saying that you're gonna poke him in the eyes during the fight. Why does he keep saying that?
So Daniel Cormier is saying before the fight that I'll end up poking him in the eyes at some point. And the reason why he says that is because I do poke people in the eyes. And it's very illegal, but I do it. I react to people trying to punch me in the face by usually sticking my hand out and pushing their face away. Kind of like you see on TV where like, the big brother's holding his little brother and the little brother can't hit him, right? Because his arms isn't like long enough or whatnot. And I do that in real fights. Like if someone's coming at me, I'll just put my hand on their forehead. And a lot of times they end up missing the punch that was intended for my face. And sometimes it lands in people's eyes. And people hate that. They're like, Johnny, you're a very talented fighter. You don't need to use an illegal tactic to be successful. I try to tell people it's not intentional, but now I'm kind of known for it. And it's working. Thank you.
What gives you the most stress in life?
My MMA career, definitely. Just not only winning, but, you know, performing at people's expectations. Being called the greatest fighter in the world, pound for pound. You know, you not only do you have to win, but you have to be impressive. And I think that's what causes me to stress.
Seatbelts.
Seatbelts, seatbelts, seatbelts.
In August, a press conference of the upcoming UFC 182 was held. Jones and Cormier finally got a chance to size each other up. Things escalated quickly as the two fighters met face-to-face at center stage. Despite the melee, the status of the fight remains unchanged. However, both fighters were given serious fines, as well as community service.
You're the scum of the earth. You are a terrible human being, but you can sure turn it on, huh?
Thank you.
I actually admire that you can actually be this fake, and like when the TV comes on, how you can just change. It's like you're a chameleon.
Both managed to exchange obscenities and even life threats in mainstream media,
The fact that you're a pussy hasn't changed.
including ESPN SportsCenter.
I wish they would let me next door so I can spit in your face.
You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?
could never kill me.
Oh, I bet you I could.
Cormier is a tough opponent, and previous confrontations have made it personal.
Kill you if you spit in my face.
Yeah, let's try that, John.
Literally kill you.
Let's try that, John.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I said I would kill you if
John,
you did some
do you think?
stupid shit like that.
So, John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
Harder! Higher! Go! 5 seconds, finish strong!
The best liver kick that I see is from catching a kick or parrying a kick.
Earlier in the day, Sarah received a call from the UFC matchmaker. She has been offered to fight Miesha Tate, one of the top-ranked fighters in the world. It will be the challenge Sarah has prepared for.
Reset, back neutral. 1 step back, come back in. That's it. She accounting for elbows with down pressure, pull him into the ground.
In college, you had a fiance. Was it easy for you to get along with him because he was a wrestler also?
Yeah, he understood everything, you know? Like, he knew the stress and pressure I was under. There's so many things that go unspoken between two athletes. Like, I would never have any question of how he was feeling, what was going on, what was he experiencing. And the same thing is vice versa. Like, you just have a different understanding of it.
What happened in September of 2004?
He'd gotten into Columbia Law School, and we were driving to go move all of my stuff there. And for whatever reason, the car veered off the road, and I tried to correct it, and I overcorrected it, and it rolled, and I got injuries. We were both ejected from the vehicle, and he passed away. We were planning on getting married, so I lost him and everything that he brings to the world, and then I also lost all of our future plans, children we would have had together, you know, like all the things that happened throughout the course of a lifetime. So I just went through like a really, really bad time, struggling to come to terms with things, you know, like this is what happened in life. This is your life. And whether you like it or not, this is how it's going. And, you know, I really started to review and realize like what life really is all about.
You gonna brush your teeth? You want help?
No, ma'am. You kind of grow up thinking that certain things are expected, you know, like, oh, if you work really hard, good things will come to you. And if you're a really good person, you'll find somebody to be with and then it'll last forever. And, you know, like we don't realize that we're living, you know, or we're envisioning the fairy tale, but we kind of are. And then something happens that just kind of like wipes all that out. And you just have to figure out, okay, like, this isn't something that is outside of the range of life. This is life. This is what it's about. Life offers some really, really wonderful, beautiful things, but it's almost pretty much part of the package that you go through the really extremely difficult ones too.
I love you.
Do you ever get scared that if you get injured fighting, you might not be there for your daughter?
It's something I definitely worry about. You only get one brain, so will I be able to be there for her?
Throughout professional MMA's existence, maintaining a fighter's health has always been a challenge. Many careers have been cut short as a result of injury.
When I first refereed, the real two rules there was no biting and no eye gouging. Everything else was allowed. I was put in there by Horian, not because he thought I was going to be this great referee. He actually told me, he said, you're not squeamish about people getting hurt. And so I guess that was my qualifying factor. The corner could stop the fight by throwing in the towel, or the fighter could stop the fight by tapping out. But in no way was the referee supposed to stop the fight. And it got to the point where I had guys getting hurt in a significant fashion, and they did not have the ability to defend themselves. I was screaming at corners to throw towels, but fighters said, don't you ever throw the towel, so they're not going to throw the towel. And now the fighter is unconscious, and I'm supposed to just let him get hit. It was ridiculous. And it was to the point where, when it got, all over with, I said, hey, thank you very much. I will never do that again. It was not sport.
The show itself back then was a spectacle. And as a spectacle, it shocked the world. And when it shocked the world, we created a lot of critics. One independently was a politician who said we were human cockfighting.
John McCain, the senator from Arizona. A piece of dirt.
It's the most brutal thing in the world, and it needs to stop immediately. And then when he was asked if he had ever watched one, he said no.
McCain can't straighten out his elbows, wipe his own ass. So what's he gonna know about mixed martial arts?
Don't trust a word a politician says, especially when he's trying to save you from yourself.
We were in a lot of political pressure. We ended up in federal court.
The cable networks took us off the air, with the exception of DirecTV. So we went from the fastest growing pay-per-view in history to now lucky to get 50,000 buys.
You can't tell me that anything is a true sport if you can kick somebody in the balls, basically.
I saw Gary Goodrich fighting the Pedro, going in his cup, squeezing his cojones. They started realizing we got to change something here.
I made up a list of 18 different rules. And those 18 rules, some of them were stupid rules just for me to try to get fluff to say, oh, you can't do this. Some of them were good rules. All these things were just, an attempt to try to get people to understand, yes, there's rules involved with it. You can regulate these rules, and this is not the barbaric action that you think it is.
The conclusion was, not only you have to put time limits to control the amount of time, which I understand and respect, not what I think is best for a real fight, but it's necessary for the show. The other thing is you can't no longer put a huge fighter against a little guy. Because if it's a 5-minute round, by the time the big guy gets tired, the round is over. So it, for me, it lost its purpose because it's no longer a comparison of styles, became a show of entertainment. This is why I decided to sell my interest in the company, which I don't regret.
My name is Lorenzo Fertitta. I'm the UFC's chairman and CEO. And to my right, of course, is Dana White, our president.
The greatest day in the history of mixed martial arts was the day that Dana White and Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta bought the UFC. Had they not bought the UFC and done what they did with it, even suffering in the beginning themselves with trial and error, we would not be where we're at today. The sport would be dead in this country. It would be underground. We wouldn't be having this interview, and I truly believe that. They are the saviors of the sport.
Any entertainment business, there has to be a balance. I used to tell this to gyms, hey, you need to support me too. You can't just send all your fighters to the UFC. You need to support us, because if you only end up with one buyer, what's that going to do to the industry? The league can control the marketplace, right?
Bellator, it's a relatively new organization. It started in 2008. I came in the infancy stage. My first fight, the cards were getting jumped over by high school girls softball games. And then Scott Coker took over in 2014, who ran Strikeforce very successfully until the UFC bought them out. And now we're on this worldwide platform, Spike.
Don't underestimate the power of network television.
He's about building stars and building guys and building people.
This is a business of star power. At the end of the day, we put fighters into the cage that people want to see.
What was Michael like as a child?
Wonderful, very good. Everybody liked him. He was friendly all the time.
Are you, as a family, trying to help Michael to get over his depression?
Yeah, we try whenever possible, but sometimes he doesn't let you. I have to drag things out of him, you know. And say, no, Mom, I'm okay, you know. I know he has gotten to counselors, but I don't know how good they are.
I hate doing this. I lied to the guy a lot, because if I told him the truth, he would probably lock me up.
Are you still using the Xanax one?
Xanax, yeah. I used that a lot over the last, I'd say over the last, month. Oh, and one thing...
Do you mean more than 2 a day?
Yeah, more than 2, yeah.
Because I get concerned if you say a lot.
No. Oh, no.
No, not like taking it to kill yourself, but just taking extra pills.
No, I'll take 2 at the most a day.
Okay.
And then there's a couple days I took 3, and I'm dead serious when I say, I never had a panic attack, but I was riding, I was cycling, I cycle a lot, and I'm cycling this one day, and I literally felt like I was gonna break down, start crying, and I just couldn't catch my breath, and I was literally about to stop in the middle of the ride and just lay on the side of the road. It's not normal.
Like a panic attack?
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. You know, I'm gonna be 40 years old. What do I do? Yeah. Midlife crisis. I hate traffic. I just wish I could mount cannons on this thing. I'd shoot that guy, I'd shoot that guy, I'd shoot that guy. I'd probably shoot that guy twice. Look at you guys. Hi, honey.
Hey.
Hey, babe.
Huh?
I love you, babe. You got nice melons.
How would you describe your marriage?
You know, it's marriage. It's up and down. It's constant work. We've been through a lot. You know, that attempted suicide and kind of dealing with that. And sometimes it's a challenge because with that name Joker, he's always got this smile on his face and constantly joking around so that he doesn't have to, I think a lot of the times, face, you know, his challenges inside and whatever he feels that he needs to accomplish within himself.
How was your day?
Great.
What was great about it?
Just another day in paradise.
As a way to make extra cash, fighters often make appearances at expo events and stage meet and greets with their fans. On a late afternoon, Joker takes a drive to Las Vegas for an MMA trivia game.
Tell me about the day you attempted suicide.
I had my 45, put one round in the chamber. I'm walking out to the car. My friend Jim Armino, one of the heads at the sheriff's department at the time, Nicole's got his number, calls up and says, you know, Mike's tried to kill himself. I got the gun from him, but he's gonna find one of you guys, you know, to shoot him. He said, I'll take care of it. A sea of patrol cars pulling to each side, bullhorn, like, come on, man, everybody has a bad day. My phone was ringing off the hook. It's Jim, and Jim's like, don't get out of your car, don't do anything. I'm coming there to personally get you. This little old guy gets out of the car. The officer's like, Jim, step back. And he's like, no. No. No, I'm gonna go get my buddy. That's my friend. He's not gonna hurt me, not gonna hurt himself. He gives me a big hug. Tells me he loves me. Yeah, that was Minneapolis that day.
I get people crying in my office, falling apart in the office, thinking their life is over because they've lost a really big match. I've even worried about a few people suicide. I've worried because they're more prone to depression. A lot of athletes are perfectionists, but the problem with perfectionists is they can drive themselves mercilessly to the point where they're seeing what's wrong all the time, not what's right. They have one little loss. Okay, another little loss. Okay, another one. Now, by the time the third or fourth one pops in, or they have one really big bad one, people around them are telling them, you're in a slump. You're messing up. You're going down.
Those negative thoughts take seed. Maybe you aren't as good as you thought you were. Negativity can be the most powerful emotion on earth if you don't take care of it.
It's the highest highs, the lowest lows. You feel like Tarzan when you win, and you feel like Jane when you lose.
After the third loss, I actually went and saw a sports psychologist.
People will tell me, I look around my other competitors in MMA, they don't seem nervous at all. And I say, well, how many of them do you really know personally? You know, if you were to really know those people and they were to tell you the truth, they would probably tell you they're actually as nervous as anybody else. But there is such a thing as bluster and bravado and faking it. So especially in a very macho sport like the combat sports, does anybody want to walk around dropping their head and, you know, looking like a hangdog? No way. Because people are going to key on that and use it against them. So they're going to puff up and they're going to walk around like they're all that in a bag of chips because they want to show the illusion that I'm a Superman. But inside, they could be very fearful. So don't assume what you see is what you get.
Did you sustain a lot of injuries when you were fighting?
Oh, yeah. But you know what? That's part of being a man.
I never have scared because I like my job. When I walk for the cage, I smile because I'm happy. I like this moment.
All people have fear. If anyone says, I'm not afraid of being in that fight, they're lying to you.
I have experienced fear in every one of my fights. You know, there's two things I do before my fight. I throw up and I cry.
When I'm in the locker room about to walk out, there's a lot that goes through my head. I try not to overthink things because that's the worst time to do it. But, you know, part of me is telling me I'm gonna go out there and kill it. The other part of me is saying, oh, what if this happens? What if you lose?
I think about getting injuries all the time because these girls, they're not just going there trying to win, they're trying to maim me, you know? They want to be the one that maybe they didn't beat me, but they gave me a big enough gash on my face where I wouldn't be able to work in Hollywood. And, you know, it's not a bad thing to be scared. It's a bad thing to doubt. I'm full of fear, but without any doubts.
I got 28 stitches. I shattered kind of this whole knuckle out here, and then broke the hand and shattered the knuckle.
People don't understand what it's like to have back pain unless they have it. You know, they have a ruptured disc in their lower back. I went through 7 years of competition with it, eating Vicodins every day just to make my pain go away.
Excellent kick by Rob. Oh my God! His bone is gone. Oh.
Do you think people are drawn to violence generally?
Absolutely. It's in our DNA. Dana White once said that you could have a corner, there's a tennis match, soccer on that corner, a baseball game over there. If a fight breaks out in the fourth corner, everybody's going to go watch the fight. It's just the way it is.
Everybody wants to see blood. Who doesn't want to see blood? You know what I mean? That's why they pay the tickets. They pay to see two guys in there bloody, sweaty, one guy get knocked out. You know, that's what the sport is.
Is MMA brutal? Yeah, 100% it is. You know, sometimes, especially when I'm cornering a fight and I'm watching these guys hitting kicks, I'm like, shit, I gotta do this? Like, that's pretty brutal in there.
It's very barbaric. I'm not denying it. That's a problem. Is that guy tried to deny it. It's not a form of entertainment. It is made for everybody. We're willingly putting ourselves to this to see who's the best in the world, you know?
It really poses the question, what do you want to do? Do you want to take a chance and risk getting knocked out?
Some critics still argue that the sport is too cruel and has no place in modern society.
I recognize it's a tremendously popular sport, but what point in a civilized society do we draw the line on violence-inducing sports? And I think the whole concept of the cage is also rather disturbing.
We all have brain damage. That's, you know, you don't get into this thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be fine.
We're gonna get lacerations, but lacerations are not a severe injury. It gets sutured together and the guy is gonna be fine. Hematomas where we'll have swelling, it's gonna go down. The things that we really try to mitigate is that concussion.
We talk to a lot of former fighters who are, not all there, mentally. How do you feel about that?
It's life.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Gary Goodrich.
Okay, come on over, have a seat, and they'll call you.
Many injuries leave a permanent mark on a fighter's physical and emotional being.
We're gonna go ahead and have you sign in right here, and then they got one more form for you to
I
sign.
already did this, didn't I?
Gotta grab his MRI.
Gary Goodrich is a retired fighter that has competed in both boxing and mixed martial arts. A veteran of the infamous Pride and K1 fighting leagues, he shows the scars of numerous battles, both mentally and physically.
I became the boxing champ of Canada with 8 months from the time I walked in the gym to the time I was champion. And then I had my fight with the best in Canada to face the best in the United States. And I fought this guy, David Bostis, in Florida. And man, that was the first concussion I ever had. I won the first round. The second round was probably about even. And the third round, I don't remember at all.
The purpose of this study is to help us identify brain injury in professional fighters and to create testing to help better treat it.
Okay.
Because for concussions, the diagnosis is not quite that clear. So this will help create testing, which will help catch that earlier.
My coach, he told me, Gary, I can't come with you because I can't afford it. But after the fight, right after the fight, I want you to call me. After the fight, the only thing I could remember is I gotta call Norm. I gotta call Norm. I gotta call Norm. My brain didn't know anything else. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing. The only thing I remember is I gotta call Norm. I gotta call Norm. So I told everybody I gotta call Norm. I told everybody who was listening, I gotta call Norm. I gotta call Norm. And we went to the phone and I called Norm. He says, "How you doing?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Did you win?" I said, "Win what?" You fought. Did you win? He said, "Put somebody else on the phone." And sorry. And I put somebody else on the phone, and that's when he decided. That's when he said he told him to take him to the hospital. And oh, sorry, I'm a little emotional because this guy's. That's when nobody around me knew that I was messed up.
There you go.
Side effects are mental lapse, forgetfulness, speech, aggression.
So in your career, do you have any sense of how many concussions and things you've had?
Over 14. Over 14.
That you know of. I mean,
that I know of.
Yeah.
We've been very fortunate to have funding for the study by the major promoters, the UFC and Bellator boxing, and this allows us to really do the work we're doing. All these organizations really truly have an interest in the safety of the sport, and hopefully as our findings come out, it will be useful to the sport, not only of MMA, but our society at large, including military and other people that are exposed to head trauma.
It all worked on being knocked out. When you see somebody, pow, gets knocked out, drops on the floor, their eyes roll in the back of their head, and they don't wake up for 2 minutes, everybody sees it, wow, cheering in the stands, and everybody getting up, and it's a good fight, and they're shaking the guy's hand, and everything's going on. And really the concern that everybody don't see is the damage being done to this individual. And with every applause, there's just as much downward spiral. So is the UFC and Bellator and all the rest of them wanting that? Hell no. Of course they don't, because that sells tickets. When you see somebody gets knocked out, when you see this happens, that sells tickets. And because it sells tickets and it sells to the public, why stop it? You know?
All but one state has accepted mixed martial arts as a legal sport. New York remains the last holdout. Many fighters still dream of fighting under the lights of Madison Square Garden.
Anyone that can get over watching this for any extended period of time has to become desensitized.
We regulate a lot of things to protect our children. New York City has been a world leader in arts and culture. Is this the type of arts, culture, and sports that we want to be known for?
The owners of the UFC, the Fertitta brothers, own these station casinos in Nevada. For around 15 years or so, the station casinos have been battling the culinary union in Nevada because the culinary union wants them to unionize. The biggest company doing MMA is the UFC, so in order to essentially stick it to them, the culinary union's parent company, they're stopping MMA from getting legalized in New York.
So this has nothing to do essentially with a moral issue?
Nothing. Nothing to do with it, nothing to do with the sport. If all these other commissions, from California to Nevada to New Jersey to Florida, all of them sign off on it. This is a sport that would bring millions of dollars to this state, a state that would sorely need that revenue.
Do you think bringing MMA to New York would help at all to boost the economy?
I don't. I don't. I don't see MMA as being something that's going to provide jobs for a great mass of Americans, good middle-class jobs that we need to have in this country. So I'm not much into the economic argument for it.
My top issue is the injuries, particularly the concussions and related brain injuries. The best study I have seen on brain injuries is coming out of Canada, which raised serious questions.
What we really were doing in the study was twofold. One was to just actually document the frequency of knockouts and technical knockouts, then identify any patterns associated with the injuries. What we were finding was that almost 1 in 3 were either a technical knockout or a knockout, and they're being struck in the head quite frequently prior to that time, and also for a certain number of strikes after that decision or the outcome of a knockout or the match has ended. How many is too many? When should we stop playing? And it's kind of like this golden question that really no one has the answer to. I think what is best practice at this point is to say, listen, if you're starting to sustain these injuries in closer proximity to each other and they're causing you to feel worse, you're probably not in the best environment or sport.
You're always going forward to fight. You're always going forward to fight, although you've had enough and you're ready to die. Your feet are burning, your hands, you can't lift them. No, nothing's wrong. Don't stop the bell. Fighters will always say that because you're always chasing that rainbow. It's gonna shine, it's gonna shine. If it lasts one more second, you can probably win. You could win. I couldn't stop myself. I live by the sword and I basically died by the sword. And do I regret it? It is me. It's my story, my legacy. It's who I am. I love my sport. I would die for my sport. And that's what I'm doing.
When I got married and became a fighter, I was pulled in so many different directions. And I really didn't know how to handle it. I have a career that any given moment can just be over. So I always found myself trying to seize every opportunity that I had, which ended up being the downfall in my marriage. And I didn't really know how bad and how hard it was gonna be until, like, it set in, like, damn, I can't see my 2 children that I have with her every morning when I wake up. You know, I gotta go sometimes a month or a few weeks without seeing them.
You move us, you speak to us, and we listen, and we give it back to you.
Being away from the cage means no income for a fighter. Luckily for Rashad, his name still bears recognition. With the UFC's help, Rashad travels to Los Angeles for a paid appearance on a weekly Fox sports show, where he serves as co-anchor.
You and Rashad have this Fox gig, but what do you think about other fighters and their opportunities, you know, after retirement?
What is the thing?
Hey, you have to think of the future, obviously, because the big checks aren't going to keep coming. I've always been doing teaching and fighting hand in hand. My first 2 UFC checks, I opened up my first jiu-jitsu school. Modest little school. Now, 40, 3 kids, 2 big schools that are over 12,000 square feet. Once in a while, I get a gig like this. And I'm whistling to work every day.
That's all we got here, guys. Back to you, KB.
Dude, what's the matter with me? I knew I should hit the steam this morning.
He's fixing like a chaza.
Look at this. Look at this. Is this normal?
Ale, I like your little bun.
We know that, John.
Rigorous training is an everyday practice for the champion. Today, he's going for a resistance run with a close friend and new UFC contender, Holly Holm.
12 before.
See?
Took me about an hour.
No. I already know better.
Holly is chasing her own dream of facing off with the champ, Ronda Rousey.
Ready? Yep. 1, 2.
It's been crazy, you know, training both of them and just, you know, watching them push each other, because there's nothing else like watching 2 champs really, truly thrive and push off of each other. That's what these 2 do.
Training as hard as you do you ever worry that somebody who's using steroids can take your title away?
You know, like in all sports, people want to get an advantage, especially once, you know, millions of dollars get involved. You know, people want to do anything they can to be the top dog. Fighting means everything to me, and I work my tail off to make my body work. So if I can do it, other people should be able to figure it out too.
I would call it an epidemic at this point. I mean, now that they are trying to clean up the sport, we're starting to realize that it's pretty ugly. I mean, I've heard fighters say that 60 to 90% of the fighters in the UFC are using something.
I'm in the business, I see what's going on, and it's insane.
These guys aren't going out there and hitting a baseball over a wall. They're punching and kicking each other in the face.
Steroids is something that's very real in the UFC. Dan Gable, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, said, once I found out that my opponent's done steroids, I knew I could beat him, because he didn't have that dog in him to become victorious. There's no shortcuts to greatness.
The penalties are stiff. Year suspension. I mean, that's a year not getting paid.
I peed positive for steroids. It did affect my career. You're put into that whole category. You're no longer your individual. Now you're labeled.
You don't want a father to tell his son, this is not for us. We shouldn't be watching this. These are just roided up guys beating each other up. Because once that happens, you know, it's hard to regain that trust.
Look at the view. Yeah, it's beautiful. Spiritual, for sure.
We're doing the Muay Thai class. This is Nadir, who's advanced. He could fight professionally if he wanted to, but he's smarter than any professional fighter and got a real job and makes real money with, what do you call that? Security and job stability. Switch partner!
After months of uncertainty and unpaid bills, Joker receives news that he will be forced to close his gym. He finds the strength to tell his wife that they are losing their business and that the only way out of their financial problems is to restart his fighting career.
Michael told us that he wants to get back into fighting.
Oh no,
what are
my
your thoughts
God.
on that?
No, I hope not.
You don't want to?
You know, I've been praying to God every day and several times during the day and the night. Lord, please give them a retirement, you know, a good job. He's not that old. He can start all over again, you know? But it's his life, it's his decision.
Do you think this business is fair to the fighters?
No, not even at all. Not close. The only people really making money, get that sound on, are like the top 3 on the card. Look at the UFC and how much they bring in. They're paying the fighters out less than 2% of what the total is. If you put in all your hours, training, dieting, all the sacrifices, I guarantee you I'd fall under $2 an hour. You know, when I first started fighting, I basically had to pay for my first fight. I had to pay $25, you know? So then when you walk away from it, you look back and go, God, I'm stupid.
There'll always be someone that says, what I didn't get, but it's a business at the same time. It's a league and a business, and people and the athletes sometimes forget that it's a business. And then the UFC has to make money, to be profitable, to put on more shows, to continue. So there's a lot of emotional feelings that get mixed into the business.
Of course, the most money's gonna go to the promoters, you know, the promotion, the promoters, the fighters get a little piece. I mean, what are you gonna do?
I've gotten plenty of raw deals. I'm still getting raw deals, I'm sure. Especially, it did not start off drawing the most professional, upright citizens of the world.
If you put on exciting fights and you win, they take good care of you.
2012, I retired with the UFC. I got sick of getting bullied by Dana. My mind wasn't there anymore. I didn't like to train. I didn't like to fight. I didn't like to be around any of it. I was empty. I was a shell of a person.
Dana White is the current president of the UFC. Brash and opinionated, his running feuds with fighters past and present have made him a lightning rod for controversy.
You know, contrary to popular belief, I really respect everybody in this industry,
I give the owners a lot of respect. Dana White, he's just the face. He's gained a lot of experience along the way. That I got to give him. He semi-knows what he's talking about now.
He's one of those guys that if you piss him off, then he's just going to turn his back on you until you tap out to him.
My free agency period was very political in nature, and obviously with one Dana White, he's told so many lies about me, and because he has the largest mouthpiece, a lot of people believe what he's saying, even though it is very far from what the truth is.
A lot of people don't like him. They think that he's, you know, mean and stuff. He is absolutely passionate about the UFC.
He's a great businessman for UFC. He's awesome. He's great for the sport, making everybody know who it is, you know? He turned himself into a celebrity out of it.
The UFC was sold for $4 billion, right? So since there's so much money to it, that's a fantastic thing because people like myself can earn a living from the sport of mixed martial arts where, say, you couldn't in wrestling. But at the same time, there's a very negative side because people are greedy, sneaky, and every other negative term you want to throw out there.
They've come to a point where now meaning within the last year, 2 years maybe, that they're respectfully taking care of the fighters adequately.
People get excited. They're like, oh, I'm going to make $20,000 in this fight. Well, $20,000 is a fart in a windstorm, you know? And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, I am better than everyone. I'm way more money than everyone. No, it's just, you know, in this world, $20,000, are you kidding me? There's very few people that actually have something when it's all said and done.
I look at so many athletes today, especially on the men's side, they have nothing. You know, they have spent their life in this career and, you know, they haven't saved money, they haven't done things, and, you know, they're out there with nothing.
So many guys continue to fight because they have to make that paycheck because they already spent all the money that they already had. Me, I can literally say that I've put away 90% of the money that I've made in the last 4 years.
Some athletes are fine, and they've saved their money. Some spent the money as if it was always going to be replenished. It's tough to see these guys go through it, but it's just part of life.
It's a rough sport. It's the hurt business. They don't call it the hurt business for, you know, no reason. You got to weather a lot of storms inside the cage, outside the cage.
I don't care if you're paid $1 million a fight or $10,000 a fight. It's the hardest thing to do. It's the loneliest sport in the world. Once you've left your team and walked in that cage and that door closes, it's only you, brother. That's it. And they deserve every bit they can. I want all of them to be millionaires.
Have you studied Daniel Cormier's previous fights?
Yes, I've watched his whole career maybe 6, 7 times now, just from start to finish. I've had some opponents where I've watched them about 50 times. And so when I get into the octagon, I kind of feel like I already know them. Freshman year, I got invited to my first pay-per-view fight. Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture. All these people were just so obsessed with what was going on the screen. People were looking at this Chuck Liddell guy as if he was a god. My most memorable fight was my UFC debut. I watched the UFC as a fan for so many years, and to finally hear Bruce Buffer's famous voice say, "And the winner is Johnny Bones Jones," and to lift my hand up and the people cheer. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on TV right now. I just want to fight in the UFC. Like, it's so obtainable. Like, you know, if I made it here, why not be the best? I've been fighting some of the most dangerous men on the planet. Daniel Cormier is an amazing athlete, but I've been really fortunate to make a lot of great fighters not look so great. I'm a winner, he's a winner, and one of us is gonna have to give in. But I don't think it's gonna be me.
Closing in on full recovery, Rashad suffers a devastating setback as his reconstructed knee gives out. A second surgery is now imminent.
I had an offer to fight, and I felt like a little pop, and I was like, damn, did my knee just go out? And I was like, no. And sure enough, the ACL snapped. Man, I cried. I was frustrated. I'd never been injured before. And I never thought this would happen to me because it just seemed like not too long ago that I was just starting this sport. Like, I was a new kid on the block, you know? And now I'm the old guy on the block.
Have you had anything to eat or drink?
It's really just put me mentally in a bad place. Like, is this it? Is this how an athlete dies? I don't know when I'm gonna fight. I don't know, you know, if the UFC is gonna stand behind me and give me another great fight or have a chance to headline a great card again. This is definitely a sport of, you know, what have you done lately? You know, I'm missing too much action. People forget.
All right.
I don't want to go out like this.
So ACL is torn completely.
Injured on the sideline. Forever wondering what it would have been like if I could have been able to get healthy just one more time.
Once only open to the biggest boxing events, the MGM Grand in Las Vegas is now a major attraction for MMA. Sarah finally faces Miesha Tate, with millions watching her skill in action.
Watch out. As Joe talked about, that big right hand for the Olympian.
Oh, she heard it there. Like, she's pushing forward. Miesha's in trouble early.
Big, powerful punches by Sarah McDonald.
After dominating the first round of the fight, Sarah begins to lose on the ground as Miesha catches her in a guillotine choke, a move the calculating Sarah did not expect.
Those are hard elbows to the face, the point of the elbow. She has got to get up.
The fight ends and they go to the scorecards. After months of training and trash talking, it's finally on.
Kick to the body. Uppercut by Cormier.
The fight seems even at first.
Both men elbowing tight, motivated by the other's verbiage.
Cormier appears to be strong and aggressive.
Oh, the first eye poke. That's what a lot of people are worried about.
But as the fight progresses, John puts his skills on full display.
He's going to take him down again, and he does. Momentum is rapidly rising in the corner of Jones.
It's looked at as a moral victory for Cormier.
There it is. But John Jones springs right back up to his feet.
As one of the few fighters to take John the distance.
Woo! Perhaps maybe all the bad blood has not boiled over.
The winner by unanimous decision.
John has another title defense to add to his flawless record.
No, 3 o'clock in the morning, things get a little bit out of control.
Right now, I would describe my current position in the UFC a pretty darn good one. A pretty good one. You know, amongst the masses, I'm considered the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now. And working at something so hard to becoming the best in the world at it, it's a phenomenal feeling.
Come on, dude.
Hey, Derek, why you punching like this?
Look at his eyes, too.
Come on, dude.
Wow.
That's exactly how it looks.
Come on, he said he couldn't go 25 seconds.
Why you don't put me on blast like that?
Because I can.
It's a tough loss. A defeat that will lower her ranking and potential salary for the next bout. UFC may even terminate her contract. This is the reality of the fight game.
When you realized that you lost, what was going through your mind?
I wasn't upset hearing the decision. I was upset during the 3rd round that I didn't, get back to a good position. And that's on me. So I'm not gonna be upset at judges for something that's my job to take care of. I'm always looking at my own fighting and, win or lose, even if it's a dominant, fight, I'll go out there and find something that I need to get better at.
Ooh.
My daughter's kindergarten class.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bunch of little handprints.
Win, Mom. Don't give up, Sarah. Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
You strong?
I'm ready to train.
Wow.
What are the chances that Rashad might injure his knee again?
There's always a possibility of that. I mean, there's no ACL that you put in that can never be retorn. Otherwise, we just do them once and you never hear about it again. So going back to the sport gradually, following protocol, that's the best thing. But Rashad, he's like ready to go. I want to go. I want to fight. It's the attitude of the athlete. But it's definitely against medical advice.
You always end up with Brett Favre, for example. I mean, he had such a great career, and then he just kind of played a little bit too long, and then people remember those last couple of seasons that he had. He was injured, or he had some bad performances. I would hate for my legacy to be tarnished because I'm 37 years old, and I'm slow, and I shouldn't be fighting, and I'm doing it just to collect a paycheck.
Do you remember the moment when you decided to retire from the sport?
Actually, I had a dinner meeting with Dana White.
He was worried, actually. I was coming to tell him that I want to fight, ask for another fight. And I was actually coming to tell him I wanted to retire.
I thank my fans.
It was a tough decision for me.
Family.
The career of a professional MMA fighter is short, an average of 9 years. Many are forced to retire due to injuries, while countless others are dropped by the league after suffering multiple losses.
I love this sport.
I was always training for something, and then now that's done. And it's kind of weird.
There's people that need to stop. Find another way. Maybe you can create something new, but they don't have the right people around them to tell them just that.
The fans, they're always going to want you to fight again. They're never going to be happy when you retire. That's a decision that myself and Bree and my team are going to sit down and say, hey, maybe it's time to hang him up because of health issues, or maybe I just don't want to continue to juggle family life and fighting life, you know?
People talk about, oh, this guy should retire. You know, this guy should retire. He's done. He took 2 losses or whatever. But the thing is, at the end of the day, 1, they're fighting because they enjoy it. And 2, it's work, you know, they're getting paid. So for you to tell a guy to walk away from, you know, making money is basically, what are you telling him to go do?
What up, Zach? I'm doing good, buddy. Hanging out here at the Danes.
Well, hey, I know I told you I'd get back to you. Got some not so good news. Decided not to pick you up on the next Bellator fight. It really weird after you, but just with your injuries and everything, and that's not what you wanted to hear, but your safety's first. And we got another guy that's going to be in the spot a little bit better for what maybe we need. And, you're not what you want to hear, but it's the best.
Operator 3830, where is your emergency?
Yeah, there was a car accident right here on Winesboro and Southern Boulevard. 3-car accident.
Anyone injured?
I'm not sure.
In April of 2015, Albuquerque police respond to a report of a suspect fleeing the scene of an accident involving a pregnant woman.
Which way did he go? What direction?
He's going on to a gated community.
Okay, we'll get somebody out there.
Yeah, there's cash in here. And they said,
marijuana right here.
Yeah. True honor. Dude, I wonder if this is that fighter's car. John Jones?
Oh, doubt it, bro. He said he was real calm.
They did?
Pro MMA, bro. That's it.
Where?
Pro MMA, right here.
Charlie 523 and 521.
Pro MMA.
Callers advising that the weapons are all locked in the state.
Well, he's
Jones turned himself in and was later arrested.
He almost killed both these people. Where's that pipe at?
Following the aftermath, the UFC suspended John, stripping him of his light heavyweight title.
This year had so much great MMA for the fans to consume, right, guys?
You know, there really was. And honestly, there's so much more to come.
Where do you think MMA is headed in the next 5 to 10 years?
Right now, it seems to be exploding.
Women's MMA is getting to a point where it's pretty independent of me, and it won't really need me much anymore.
You're seeing guys switching organizations a lot more than you used to. There's no longer that clear distinction of what organization is better. Maybe one's bigger, maybe one takes care of fighters better. It really matters what your personal goals are.
John Jones said he's considering going to Bellator because he heard their president is a coker.
If you think about 10 years ago, there was no MMA on TV outside of Spike TV because it was like, oh, taboo. Now it's on almost every network.
We've seen a sport be created and go to mainstream. I can't name another sport that's ever done that in my lifetime.
It's become like just a normal thing, not just in America, but worldwide.
I went to the Super Bowl this year, and it was like a whole different level. Even our biggest events in mixed martial arts aren't even a speck compared to the coverage that those bigger sporting events get. So we have that room for growth, but there's no secret this is the fastest growing sport in the world.
We're not quite at the level of the big four, which I consider to be NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL. But it's on Fox, it's on free TV, Bellator's on Spike, and if you go to any major UFC event, you'll see ESPN there, USA Today is there, all major outlets are there as well. The UFC is sometimes obsessed with this idea of it becoming the #1 sport in the world, surpassing soccer. That's never gonna happen, and I think that's okay.
Folks, one of the things that's not gonna go tumbling this year is worldwide expansion of MMA, from Sweden to Japan, Macau. I mean, this thing only grows further. Now, unfortunately, there's one guy you guys won't see here tonight.
Oh, get off me. These guys give me great joy. I'm trying to get more positive things because it just can't be fighting alone. And kickboxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, I understand that now because, like, my body, I'm losing it. You know, I can't do it the whole time, and I need to figure something out. Anytime I look off into long distances, I sit there and I try and imagine, like, what normal people think. From my eyes, I think that everybody's better than me. And I'm trying to figure out how I could be like them. Oh my gosh.
"50 to 100 years ago in this country, life was probably more real. People were born at home, and people would die at home. So people would see the whole cycle of life, from life to death, very real. As we've progressed as a society, it kind of seems like we're becoming more sterile. There's not a whole lot of things that are more real than MMA. It has this kind of graphic, raw quality to it that maybe people are longing for. Life is a little too plastic, maybe. And MMA is very, very real."
Simplify it. Simplify it, simplify it. It's a lot easier.
Hold on, what show's done today?
Bella, do you want to hand him some? Here's a long one. You can go hand it to one. Walk slowly, Sean.
For those that put their bodies and minds on the line for the sake of pride, glory, and entertainment. Whether they travel steadily along that journey or their bodies and minds fail them, they are always fighting. Because for these men and women, there is no defeat that keeps them on their backs. No referee to stop their fight. No corner to show them the way.
Yes, sir.
According to this, you're going to plead guilty to one allegation of leaving the scene of an accident.
They must find the strength to carry on within themselves.
That's a fourth-degree felony. A fourth-degree felony.
And that is why we follow their stories so intently. Through magnificent victories and crushing defeats. So that just for a moment we can put our own struggles on hold and witness the triumphs of another.
Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. Fight through the struggle, fight through the pains. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. I'ma walk all alone as I walk through this darkness. Just another man in the land of the heartless, where it's do or die. And you can see the fire in my eye. And if you only knew my hunger, you can hear my stomach growl like thunder. Hurt business, you can't show it. No matter the pain, you push forward. Get it, get got, move or move over. No guts, no glory, roll or roll over. Where only the strong gon' survive. And if it's up to me to decide, fight through the struggles, fight through the pains. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. Fight through the struggle, fight through the pains. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. I'm a warrior. Blood on my face, scars on my hands, signs of a gladiator. I should fear no man. It ain't no bending, ain't no breaking, ain't no goddamn draws. Either you winning or you losing, ain't no pities in war. It's every man for itself, ain't no friends among us. Either you predator or prey when you in this jungle. No surrender, no retreat when your family gotta eat. And the cost of living is high and the struggle is all you see. They say many are called, but the chosen a few. Where your past don't matter, only your present is due. To sum it up, either you can or you can't. A warrior, either you are or you ain't. Fight through the struggles, fight through the pain. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. Fight through the struggles, fight through the pain. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. I'ma walk. If I can't run, I'ma walk. If I can't walk, I'ma crawl. But I'ma keep on going till I can't go at all. If I can't run, I'ma walk. If I can't walk, I'ma crawl. But I'ma keep on going till I can't go at all. I'm a warrior. Fight through the struggles, fight through the pain. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. Fight through the struggles, I'ma fight through the pain. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. 'Cause I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. Till I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. I'm a warrior. Until I take my last breath, I'ma fight till the death. I'm a warrior.
Son, Banzai, Kamikaze, Os.
Didn't even look like you had to that time, dude.
Coconut head.